Okay, so you guys have sent in some really interesting stuff this time around. A lot of it focusing on communication,
Yeah.
which is always
Always relevant.
always a good topic.
Yeah.
How do we get our messages across and really make sure people are with us right?
Yeah, I think especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information,
Right. Yeah.
it feels more important than ever to figure out
How to cut through the noise.
how to cut through the noise, and make
Yeah.
sure that we're actually reaching the people that we want to reach. And I think the stuff that you send in this time around really gives us some cool tools to do that.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of overlap too, which is
Something that.
always encouraging to see when we see like these common threads between
Yeah,
seemingly different sources.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Shows that there's some universal truths in there
Right.
that are worth exploring.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that really stood out to me was something called the colors code.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Yeah. It's a really fascinating framework for thinking about communication. And it kind of boils down to this idea that there are different ways of communicating depending on what you're trying to achieve
Okay.
and who you're talking to.
So not just like a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's very much about being deliberate, being intentional about how you communicate.
So what is this colors code all about? Like how do we actually use it?
So the material you've provided talks about this idea of PPP, professional, personal, and private communication.
Okay.
And each of these kind of represents a different color and a different approach to how we talk to people.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, the way it's presented is that this colors code idea came about from an editor's experience while giving lectures. Apparently, they were struggling to keep students engaged.
Right.
And then one day, they just started using different colors to highlight different aspects of what they were teaching. And they found that the students suddenly became way more interested. So that kind of sparked this idea of, well, maybe colors can actually help us to adapt our messages in a way that makes them more impactful.
So like a visual aid almost?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But I think it goes deeper than that. You know, if you think about a rainbow,
Okay.
it's basically just white light that's been separated into different colors.
Hmm.
And in the same way, the colors code suggests that our communication can be separated into different languages.
Mm-hmm.
Head language, heart language, gut language, and body language.
Oh, that's interesting.
And these different colors and languages tap into something universal.
Okay.
You know, our emotions, our experiences. They kind of bypass the logical part of our brains and speak directly to our feelings.
Oh, I like that. So our mission then in this deep dive
Yes,
is to kind of unpack this color code and figure out how it actually works, right?
exactly. How does it work? And more importantly, how can we use it to become better leaders and better communicators?
All right, let's do it. So one of the examples that really stuck with me from the stuff you sent was this story about Espen.
Oh, yeah, Espen, the manager.
Right. Espen's this really logical guy, very efficient.
A real gets things done type of person.
Totally. So there's this security issue that comes up at his company, and his immediate response.
Email.
Email, right. Very detailed, factual.
Classic head language.
Yes, very professional, just laying out all the facts. But then,
It backfires.
right, people are confused, they're anxious, some are even pushing back.
It's a great example of how, even when something makes perfect sense to us,
Yeah,
it might not land the same way with others.
totally. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So Espen, being, a good manager, thinks, okay, let me get everyone together. Let's have a company-wide meeting. He brings in the head of security.
Big presentation.
Big presentation. Even more details.
Slides, charts, the whole shebang.
Thinking that's going to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it doesn't really work.
Nope. More discussion, more questions, no real resolution.
Yeah. Poor Espen.
Yeah.
He's like, what am I doing wrong?
Right? He's stuck in that head language, thinking if I just give them enough information, it'll click.
Right. But it's not about the information at this point.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
Which is where the SGL expert comes in, right?
Yeah. This is where things start to get interesting. The expert basically tells Espen he's got to connect with people on a personal level.
Not just logic.
Not just logic. And he gives him a really interesting strategy. He says, identify your key influencers.
The people whose opinions actually matter.
Exactly. The ones who can sway the rest of the team. And then go talk to them individually.
One-on-one.
One-on-one in their own spaces, not in a formal setting.
So Espen does this, and he really changes his approach.
Yeah. He drops at the formality. He's honest. He's vulnerable. He's sincere.
This is the gut language.
Yeah. He's connecting with them on a human level.
And it works.
It does. They start to trust him. They feel like they're part of the solution.
And then when he has the follow-up meeting,
It's a completely different story.
Night and day.
People are engaged, they're proactive, they're coming up with solutions.
It's amazing what a little bit of human connection can do.
It really is.
So what this shows us is that the blue language, the professional head language.
It's good for information.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily persuade people.
Right.
And then the red language, the heart language.
That personal connection.
Yeah. That can get people engaged, but it doesn't create ownership.
It's the yellow, that gut language that builds trust.
Yeah. The honesty, the vulnerability.
That gets people to actually take action.
And then there's this fascinating mention of purple.
Oh, yeah, purple. Like the body language.
Yeah. Like the nonverbal cues, the eye contact, the tone of voice.
It's like the secret sauce that makes the gut language work.
It adds that extra layer of authenticity.
Right.
It shows people that you really mean what you say.
And that you care.
Exactly.
So for you, the listener, the material gives us this great exercise, home lesson 1.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
It's so simple, but I think it can be really powerful. Basically, you take your to-do list, your goals.
And some colored markers.
Right, and you assign a color to each task.
Blue for the professional stuff, the desk work, the emails.
Red for anything that involves interacting with other people.
Meetings, presentations, those sorts of things.
And yellow for the tasks that require trust and intuition.
The gut feeling decisions.
Yeah. So I think for me, the question is, how often am I using the wrong color?
Right. Am I defaulting to blue when I should be using yellow?
Exactly. Or am I getting too personal with something that should just be professional?
It's a really good way to become more aware of how you communicate.
So the main takeaway here is that effective communication, especially if you're in a leadership role,
but really in any aspect of life,
right,
is about understanding these different color languages and using them strategically.
And it goes back to that rainbow analogy, right?
It does. It's like we're wired to understand the world through these different lenses.
So I think the question for you, the listener, is how consciously are you separating your communication right now?
Are you using all the colors in your toolkit?
And if not, what could you change? What color are you maybe underutilizing?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Yeah, this was a good one. Lots to chew on.
For sure. Until next time.